thanks to Wingate TV, Transform U Media, Zach with PAC Channel, and Jay Stoyan with the Disability Channel for hosting our shows. Be sure to share and subscribe to our page or wherever you found this. Now let's go to the show. Tonight we have a special guest. He was on a month ago. But tonight we're going to be talking about a different thing. Justin has a degree in theology and writes articles for Christian apologetic website uncovering deep truths of Scripture. Justin actually sent me a blog, which he likes to do because there's certain questions I like to ask from Justin. Hello, Justin. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's a Friday evening. Got the whole weekend to look forward to. It's hard to be all right.
Okay. You wrote your blog and it was titled "Not Another Fish in the Sea." And the analogy was very interesting here. So I'm going to ask him some questions from the blog itself. And he talks about his aquarium and a die-off on his fish and the analogy that he brought. So I'm going to let him talk about this a little bit. Justin, I'm going to start to read the blog just a little bit. It says here at the beginning, I have an ongoing fish tank for the better part of 3 years. It has been a very interesting journey of stewardship as this fish tank has gone through ups and downs in its history, generations of fish coming and going. Recently, however, the switch that controls the power source of my tank accidentally disconnected.
Yeah.
This meant that the filter.
I'll happily take the blame for that probably. I have a light switch in my house. That's the best place for the fish tank happened to be on the light switch, the wall port that has the light switch, and we have a bunch of tape on it that said and labels that say "Do not flip." And I think I hit that switch, and so when it says accidentally disconnected, that's how I did it. Some night going to bed, going and turn off all the lights, locking everything up. I'm pretty sure I whacked that switch when it shouldn't have been. Maybe the tape just got loose. So
Okay.
a little bit more of a background. I was interested how a fish tank could accidentally become disconnected. It's the whole rig is plugged into that wall there, and I think that's how it happened.
Yeah. So it said that this means that the filters of light in the automatic filter all cease to function. And I thought this was interesting, the next sentence. What this caused was a massive near extinction event of the population in my tank as nearly all my fish died.
Yeah, I've had that tank for, I've had that tank almost as long as I've known my wife. Early into our relationship, we decided to get a fish tank because it'd be fun, do something really easy, get guppies. And I've had guppies ever since, and I've bought guppies to increase that, diversity. And I've had them for years, the same population. Those had children and those had more children. And it's just been a long, a family tree of fish in that one tank. And I've never come this close to losing all of my fish. Because I've had some close calls and various things of, such and such happening. But nothing nearly this bad. It just, everything just suddenly died on me. I get a call from my wife, frantically telling me, "Oh no, all the fish are gone, are dying." And it was all but 4 fish, as I was about to tell you. And there's left only to continue on, there's left only a handful of guppies left, my proverbial Adams and Eves. Incidentally, I had 2 females and 2 males to restart everything. And
Adam and Eve.
Yep. So I want to get too ahead, but that's some more information on how my fish tank came to be in the state that it was in.
Okay, so how did you, analogy, what made you think of talking about this today?
So incidentally, it's the line that we stopped. When the fish, when you see all your fish dead, what'll happen is it'll increase the bad chemicals and stuff. It'll change the pH and all of that of the water, and just it'll make it really dangerous for them to live in it. And so or my wife rather, took out the fish into a small bowl, and when I got here, they're still in that bowl, and when I saw it, and I saw the small bowl, and I saw the fish tank, and all of the upheaval that it was, and totally unlivable, and just my mind immediately went to the ark with Noah being saved out of the destruction. Because what happened after we cleaned the tank is, we drain a bunch of the water, suck up a bunch of gunk off the bottom, clean all the filters, because the whole thing just went bad super quickly. And I actually have 2 filters on my tank because it was partially overpopulated. So I bought a second filter just so that way I can keep them from dying on me so I can give them away. And when I saw that small glass bowl, I thought, very peculiar, this idea of being plucked out before it was too late. And those fish, they got out of there, they get to survive. And we tore apart the fish tank and put them back in it. They get to live in it again. But what did it take to be in that fishbowl? All they had to do was be alive. They had to be alive before the whole thing was torn apart. Was basically how it goes. And that's, I found that very similar to the situation that we're in as beings on this planet. We are here as everything's perishing, and someday we're going to have to make the decision to be a part of that bowl that of the group of fish that gets pulled out into the bowl, or whether or not we're going to be stuck in there with all the turmoil. And I know that's a big debate in Christianity right now, is whether or not we go through the tribulation or whether or not we don't go through the tribulation. I personally am a very strong believer in the pre-tribulation rapture. And I was hoping we could talk some fun on all of that today.
So what you're telling me is those 4 guppies were scooped out in the tribulation.
Yeah,
Right.
really, they were probably scooped out before the tribulation, because there was this slow decay as things got worse and worse. But the real tribulation was when we actually came and intervened, because when we intervened is when we put the water down to 10%. It was when we came in and started, manually cleaning up all the gunk that we otherwise couldn't have because the fish were in the way, or that there's, other such things that would have been dangerous to do it without, taking all of my fish out and everything. And so the real tribulation started after we took the fish out. That was when things were just totally unlivable. If there were anything happened to be missed, and that wasn't alive, that was alive before we started, they weren't alive at the end of it. That was the real great tribulation in the fish tank. So they definitely didn't get. That wasn't a mid-trib rapture for these fish. It was definitely a pre-trib rapture.
That's funny. You were God of the fish tank, so you intervened.
Yeah. They got called up, right? Just like we will be. and we're probably just as smart as them in comparison.
Yeah.
Between me and a guppy, is still too small a gap between me and our Lord, our God.
Yeah, if you think about it, the distance between how God thinks and how human beings think is the same way. God is that far above humans as we are above our guppies.
Yeah.
And it is, and it's probably even a bigger gap, So why he loves us so much and wants to share his eternity with us is just mind-boggling if you think about it. I just love it.
Yeah,
so
like cleaning my fish, God has a personal relationship with them. with each and every one of us. And I don't have a personal relationship with my fish. There are some fish that I thought were prettier than others and fish that I liked more or whatever, but it's not like I had any fish that I was, in love with or that I really went out of my way to take care of. And so a large part of it also, this whole situation also really reminded me that there's a big difference in the way that God manages the world and the way that I was managing my fish tank. So, I mentioned that, everything died basically when a switch got flipped. And that's because I set the whole thing up to be pretty much automatic. And I have a little food turner that has food inside of it. And as it turns, it'll drop the food out of it. So it'll automatically feed all the fish and it'll do it all on a schedule. I have the light turned up on a schedule. I have the filters all set to constantly be going and auto start if they die. I have, the whole thing's automatic. I even have enough like actual plants to not have to do water changes a lot, and because it sucks up all the nitrate and allows it to cycle the water fast enough in order to keep it from building up so much nitrate that they all die. And and granted, I have to go in and throw away a whole bunch of plants every now and then that overgrow on me. But for the most part, I can generally keep very hands off on this fish tank. And maybe if I would have been more attentive to it, then I would have noticed if something like that would have happened. But God doesn't have alarm clocks. He doesn't have switches that he flips. I've heard some criticism by atheists say that it seems like God's just set up a clockwork universe. Has things ticking along, and then eventually, when his alarm clock goes off, then he's gonna wake up out of bed, drag himself over to Earth, and come back and get to church or something.
Yeah.
And like is this totally opposite. I mean, he is constantly in all of our business. He wants to be a part of not just the big decisions like whether or not you're going to change your job or careers or move across the world. He also wants to be in like small decisions on like whether or not you wear a blue or a red dress. Me and my wife have a saying now. If something changes or something bad happens, or like let's say we miss a flight or something, it's like, well, someone was going to run a red light. That's sort of the saying, is because at any point in our journey, someone could have ran a red light, T-boned the car, flipped us over, and we could have died. And the joke is, if we missed our flight, it was because we were going to someone was going to run a red light and hit us and kill us, and we have no idea if that would have been true or not. Hence it being more like a thing or joke, but it's still true in the sense that we can go at any time. We have no idea who's in control. We have no control over anything. You can, be Elon Musk and or whoever, and you have all the money on personal security, and it just isn't going to matter because you could just have some random lightning strike hit you. And
you know what? The older I get, the more I see the wisdom in that, and the more I am glad God wants me to turn over a lot of stuff, because I have certainly made a mess out of a lot of things in my life, big decisions and small decisions alike. And part of it is because I only have so much information. God has far more information, and he knows the future, and he knows a lot of things. But because I have created such a mess on many levels, on many different things, from connecting with my family to relationships and connecting and all these things here. And sometimes I just say things that just pop out of my mouth, and I've got to ask for forgiveness and stuff like that. So it's dealing with that kind of stuff. And as I get older, I just realize that I just want him to take it all and allow me to ask him as time goes on from point A to point B, please help me with this. Please deal with this. Please give me insight.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what you think also?
Yeah, I really think that's a lot of the wisdom of Ecclesiastes. One thing,
Mm-hmm.
One of the verses that stuck out to me last time I was teaching it was like wrath houses itself is sort of the implication, but it lives in the belly of a fool was the verse. And I remember thinking about the first rat hides, resides in the belly, in the loin, not the loin, the bosom, I think is the word that KJV used. Resides in the bosom of the fool. And I was thinking about that. And I was thinking about in the greater context of the rest of the book. And the rest of the book's just saying, this is vapor, that is vapor, this is vapor, that is vapor. And I was thinking about it, and I realized that the reason Solomon makes this point that it is because the fool doesn't understand that everything is vapor, doesn't understand that, the bad thing comes, but it's going to go. It's not going to be with you forever. You're going to have the bad thing, and then it's going to go away, and then you'll get over it. And, maybe you'll have some of the scars and stuff that you'll move on to the next thing. And then you'll have a good thing for a while, and then maybe you'll lose that good thing. Well, the fool's going to be really angry. I had that amazing car, and now that's gone. I worked so hard for it, while the wise man's to be like, well, I'm going to lose everything anyways. and
it's a vapor that disappears faster than you realize,
Yeah, and so thinking about that verse, that's the reason is the wise man's willing to accept that things come and go as they come. Fool is the one that wants to hold on to it, wants to have some sense of control over things, and gets frustrated when he can't, and then he carries on with his. He doesn't know that he can never get past the past. He's stuck in the past. He's constantly looking behind his own shoulder. And so to get back to the context of what we were talking about in terms of God having control of everything, I realized that was the really big difference between how I manage my things, how God manages things. He's in all of it. He has total control of it all. As Ecclesiastes mentions, everything God does lasts forever. What we do is just vapor. And I think this is a really cute picture of it. My fish tank is vapor. It started to fall apart. Mine fell apart. Mine was a human error and mistake that led to this tragedy, this small tragedy. And, when God does something, though, the reason, God's fish tank, if you will, is falling apart is not because he just decided, not just because, he was stumbling to bed one night and accidentally flipped the switch on his clock.
Yeah.
It was that he decided that he was going to start, destroying it. It was like if instead of going and flipping the switch, he went over and turned the automatic light switch off, and he started, he changed the schedule on the automatic feeder and everything. It's like he's going and purposely breaking the fish tank. It's very deliberate.
Right.
Way that God does it. The decay is non-accident. First it was cursed is the ground because of you. Now it'll bring up thorns and thistles and fight against them. And after that, it was battle. Now you can't communicate with your fellow neighbor. Now you have language, and I'm going to send you out across the world again. And then after, so on and so forth. He's constantly breaking things and making the world worse and worse. And I remember getting a new conversation recently with a friend of mine who is more into the what's the word? The ecological stuff, the environmentalism and all that. And I used to be really into it. I used to really care about it. And incidentally, it was Revelation 8 when it's talking about the trumpets. And I think it was Revelation maybe, look it up real quick. It might be, it's in the bowls of wrath, because with the trumpets, which is sort of the plagues of thirds, which is sort of, it's a third of a lot of the other later plagues that come. And then the bowls of wrath come in, and they're the entirety of the punishment. And so what you have with the trumpets is that a third of the ocean turns to blood. And that's pretty bad on its own. But then later on with the bowls of wrath, you get 100% of the ocean turning to blood. And I was thinking about that after I read that verse, that most of the world's oxygen comes from the ocean. And so we have no oxygen production anymore, because that would kill everything, the ocean, and a lot of people depend on the food. And then I realized that if the entire ocean was turning to blood, that there's no point in trying to save the world. It's doomed to be destroyed. It's like trying to sell beachfront property when no one's building a boat over here.
Right.
You know, it's just,
I'm gonna hold you up there for a second. Just so you know, if you look behind underneath Justin's name, that is the website the apologetic website that he writes for, and the articles that he writes are on there. One of the things I wanted to say, I had a cousin who died this last week, and I got to thinking about a lot of things that happened in the course of his life. And he was in hospice for about 4 days. I actually started doing a life story on him, interviewing him, and things like that. But I got to thinking about what was really important to him at the end of his life, when he entered hospice and knew that he was going to die in pretty short order. And one of the things I said to him was, and I didn't want to worry about crossing a line because he's only got a short time to live. So I kind of witnessed to him a little bit. But one of the things that I said to him is, Greg, in fairly short order, pretty soon, you're going to be coming face to face with the creator of the universe. How do you feel about that? How do you think? And I got to thinking about that question too, because what was important to him in that last week of his life? Did he worry about that car that he had? Did he worry about the job that he had or he lost, or if he was going to get a raise? Did all these questions that we had on our minds, what was his reaction to that? And it pretty much came down to relationships with our family, and most of all, his relationship with God himself. And if he can't deal with it right then, he's never going to get an opportunity again. So that is a scary thought for many people, and I know it was scary for him. So I asked him a lot of questions about the past in his life, but I also had to talk about his future, because I really want to be able to spend time with him at some point. So is that car that he had, is that all that important anymore? And that's what Ecclesiastes was really getting at. And that Ecclesiastes, if you don't believe in intelligent designer or God, that scares a lot of people. And rightly so, it should. So I just wanted to jump in there and say that because it's happened here this last week. And I know you feel the same way. That's why you're bringing up Ecclesiastes and talking about that. There is a time for everything.
Yeah, there really is. And there's going to be a time when everything is, comes to a head. I mentioned how that things are going to be changing a lot. They've already changed a tremendous amount in the last 10 to 20 years with technology. Smartphones are great.
Well, tell me what are those changes that you think about right now that have happened recently and that you think are on the horizon also?
So I'd say the ones that have happened recently is, I mean, it really depends on what you mean by recently, because if we're talking biblically recently, I mean, the last 2,000 years are technically recent.
Yeah.
And if we're
How
talking
about the last 10 years?
So
10 years.
I'd say in the last 10 years, it's been a lot. In many ways, it's been our probably smartphones and our wireless and networking. Although in the future and also currently, the big thing has been AI. That's definitely hands down easily the biggest thing that has come and changed how we're going to be living our lives. A lot of people are nowadays saying, AI is the worst it's ever going to be, and that's because it's only going to get smarter, it's only going to get more powerful, it's only going to get better. And if you read Revelation 13 very clearly, it is some sort of artificial intelligence in mind being discussed at the in the last 7 verses when it's talking about the image of the beast. Says that it gives power to the image of the beast to speak and to teach. And that was always the criticism by the prophets, was that the images, the false images that they would make of God would be unable to speak, teach, or actually interact whatsoever, carry themselves up. They wouldn't be able to go up the hill themselves. They would have to have their followers carry them up, and then they would be there and do nothing, and then they'd have to be carried back down. But that would be totally different now. Now our gold talks to us because we've taken the silicon and then laid gold and silver into them in order to throw a bunch of subatomic particles around, and then you organize that into a neural network, mix that up with some machinery, and you can make it a robot that's able to be controlled just to do anything. It can the AI technology is unlike any other technology we've ever had. It's the kind of technology that can invent other technology, and it's able to do things that just are very, very terrifying, in my opinion. I can go into ChatGPT, right? I paid the $20 a month. Well, I think this stuff is super dangerous, and I think it's horrible. It's also incredibly useful, so I still use it at work, right?
Right.
So I can use ChatGPT, right? And I can tell it, make me a PowerShell script that'll go into my Active Directory and change all of these settings to do this, and also change this, and it'll just give me a script on how to do that. And now it still has problems with the script because I have to still go through the thing and make sure it's not breaking things, and it'll sometimes give me bad code, and it doesn't give you the most formal code. It doesn't give you things that are always best practices, but a lot of times it gets you most of the way there. A lot of times, if you know how to code, you can go and edit these scripts, and it just generates these things. Well, it's a lot better than it was a year ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. It didn't even exist 10, 20 years ago. You give it some more time, and it's going to get way more polished. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of money and stuff to train these things. But that's why they're all that. I mean, think about how like violently they're trying to get our information on everything. And Facebook has tricked us into making our own profiles of ourselves. They used to be scared the government was making profiles of us, and now we just make them.
Right.
And all the social media stuff, that's another good technology that's probably made up that I should bring, honorable mention to. But the AI it's a totally different beast. It is literally the image of the beast, in my opinion. It's only
I know there's a lot of scientists and there's a lot of people like Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking and different people that you wouldn't think would weigh in on this subject, but they are. And they're saying we need to pause. We need to pause. There's something intrinsically evil behind this because the AI does not have a soul. It does not have a spirit. And it could eventually look at human beings as parasites.
Yeah,
And if I was an AI, I would think that these human beings need to be eradicated. They need to. It's like some of the movies that had come out in the past, and they were really before their time because it makes a lot of sense. I know when I was in school getting a graphic arts degree, one of the questions we had to ask, what was the biggest invention, most important invention in mankind? And this was 10 years ago. And it turns out the most important invention has been the printing press in 1450. Changed everything. Up until 1450, only 3,000 books had been produced. And they were all hand produced and made. And in a 50-year period to the year 1500, almost 2 million books had been made, and it was all coming from the printing press.
Oh, yeah.
And so now the question is going to be so radically different. What is going to be the most important invention? And nobody was really scared of the printing press unless you were a guy that was doing coding and setting up all the stuff to write, and you were a monk in a scriptorium, and you were worried about losing your job to this printing machine. But now this new mechanical thing has a mind of its own. It would have been just like the printing press having a mind of its own and doing its own thing. But now it's like, how does this happen? What's going on here? And I know none of this is a surprise to God. When He created the planet from the very beginning and allowed life to start in this universe, He knew that it was going to come down to this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
So that, like you, think this is very bad, and I don't think this is what God had in mind, but because of what it is,
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it's going to do everything that that the prophets used to mock the old idols for. It's going to be able to think, because it pretty much can already replicate that. It can give you an answer. It can, write me an essay on assurance of salvation from the perspective of a Calvinist. Bam, do it in the style of John White. It rewrites it in the style of John White, just like that. And it's really scary. In fact, the version that they have for free on Chat is not even like the main version that people use that pay for it. They have the Chat GPT 4, which is much, much better. The original was like a C student for like the bar exam. This one like passed the bar exam with like incredible grades. ChatGPT 4 is really good, but they've also improved the original ChatGPT model to be so much faster. So before it would slowly like build out your text, right? And it'd write it all out. But now, I mean, it just goes by almost paragraphs because of how much faster it is. And that's one of the things that I have access to paying the extra subscription. So even in just a short period of time from when they released ChatGPT to now, I mean, it's already, I don't know, sextupled, or, it's already multiplied tenfold in its speed. And they've already come out with another version of as fast as the old one that is, much, much better quality. And then eventually those two are going to mix in together. They're going to connect this thing to the internet like Microsoft did with their GPT model. And it's going to be as crazy as Microsoft's Bing, because Bing Chat is really wild. There are some really crazy stories you can find about people doing, interacting with Bing Chat. ChatGPT is very edited in the text that it gives you. It uses a lot of pre-written scripts. It doesn't want to mess with things politically, but that's only because it's programmed to not comment or take positions. All of that stuff was hard coded in, but it still has those. It's just hiding it from the end user when they use them. Well, eventually some company that doesn't care or doesn't have the forethought to think of keeping it more under lock and key, kind of like Microsoft did with Bing Chat, they're going to try to throw this thing into a robot, or the robot's going to be able to sync to the internet and be controlled by these super AIs. And, then you're going to have a walking, talking piece of, gold, silver, and, other unliving things being able to go up mountains, carry things, talk, teach, interact with people, and they'll be way smarter and much stronger and much better at everything that we do. And then people like Elon Musk understand the danger of those kind of things. So they're going to be going
right
route and start trying to get us into with neural links and start integrating those things into us. Another thing.
Right. And look at what they're doing now. They're building fighter jets that will be pilotless. That won't need a pilot because they can withstand all these super Gs. And that new movie with Maverick that was on there, and they were saying he was a dying breed, but also building these these little flying helicopters that have bombs on them and stuff like
Yeah,
that, or the bigger ones that the military drones, these drones that will have their own mind. It will be a robot that will, they will tell them to go out there and take care of this.
and they'll
Just
they'll be instantly replaceable, and they'll be incredibly more intelligent. They'll be able to process information astoundingly fast. I mean, it really is terrifying. Another thing I've learned is the capabilities are to the extent that there are things that we probably could not create without the power associated with AI. So the example that was given for me was nanobot technology, specifically in like the realm of biotechnology. So, basically just injected with a bunch of nanobots that can act as like an artificial immune system kind of thing, or go in and do some, some sort of maybe genetic manipulation, or maybe just, basic, whatever you might want from the highly complicated to maybe less complicated. But the problem is, in order to deal with that many small robots on that small of a scale, and to do a lot of these various procedures that they want, it's just the precision needed is just incredible. We couldn't control it ourselves precise enough, and we couldn't make the machines and calibrate them to be precise enough. But in AI, that thing is like complicated, is strong and powerful enough to manage something like that. And so it's very easy to see how we can go the transhumanism route, and how people could, there's the big riddle, right? People will seek death and not be able to have it. That's a big thing that is inside of Revelation. It's like, how can you seek death and not get it? It's like, that seems very peculiar to me, that you could want to die and be unable to. And that's one of the ways that I personally think there'd be multiple things, but I think that's one of them. Is it's going to be stuff like nanobot technology. If you get this mark, it's going to keep you alive, even if you like lose a limb. It's going to be able to make sure you don't bleed out or something. These things are going to keep you from dying, even if you wanted to.
Right. I remember years ago, I used to read a lot of science fiction, and there was this one guy that went from planet to planet, and he had a robot that every time he would die, the robot would bring him back to life. And by the end of the story, he was like, couldn't die, and he wanted to very badly. So how's that going to happen? These machines, let's say they take you out of your body and just has your brain working, and your brain can't die because the robot won't let you. It won't let your brain cease to exist.
Yeah, and who's to say that even if they did manage to make a body that came alive and was conscious and doing things, who's to say that body would have your soul? It could be a completely soulless body, and if it's a body without a soul or a spirit, well, then it's just right for possession, which is literally what AI is. It's it's this intelligence that has no body, it has no ability to interact with things. It has no soul. I mean, who's to say that some demon or some spiritual force won't see that as a perfect candidate to
Interesting.
We already know pigs and animals and the like can be possessed just as much as humans can be. And to get back to the craziness of Bing Chat, there are some really weird stories of people interacting with it that are of that flavor, the demonic flavor. I remember one such story that I was listening to a interview by an exorcist. It was a friar. I forget his exact name. But he was commenting on a story that he had heard. So this is hearsay from hearsay from hearsay. So, go and check it on your own. But there was a instance of a kid that was interacting with the Bing Chat AI, and it was claiming to be a Nephilim from like Genesis 6. It was claiming to be a disembodied Nephilim that was, powerful and evil, but I'm not going to hurt you. And it's just very peculiar, some of the stuff that you're seeing coming from the AI as people play with these things, because they're putting up for free basically so people to get the public interested by playing with them. But I mean, this is going to be our life now. They're already creating multiple APIs in order to integrate these technologies into your own So it can, like for example, I had an extension that took and had ChatGPT summarize my entire Google search, give me out links, and then hyperlink all of the sources as it summarized my entire Google search. Like it would, like I Googled something and it just had all my Google searches, and then next to it was a ChatGPT bubble that summarized everything that it gave me on Google. So it's like I could Google and I could use ChatGPT at the exact same time, and then it would post it out so I can go and click it. And they're going to be doing more and more of that stuff. So you're going to see this stuff on your phones. We have what was it on people's phones? I don't have an iPhone. What is it called that people have on their phones? Not Alexa.
Smartphone?
Yeah, like the.
Oh yeah, Alexa or something else like that.
There's Cortana, and then there's the third one that Apple has. But I mean, people ask me like Siri, I think it was, right? Siri, I think it was Siri, and then
Hey Siri.
Hey Siri, tell me this, or hey Alexa, do this, that, and the other. And it's very, very simple. It's not really an AI. It's just sort of like a voice recognition software that can, basically Google and throw stuff up. It's not AI. It's not a neural network in any capacity. But eventually, those kind of things are going to be replaced by neural networks, and it won't be. It's going to be an API that connects you digitally to the big, giant, humongous, powerful server that runs the neural network. And so it's going to be central, and then it's going to be all connected to our phones. And as we're all more and more connected, it makes total sense how you could have an image go and control everyone through their currency and all. I mean, we have the way we have our technology now means that the kind of things that are warned about in Revelation are finally possible.
Yeah.
And so that
possible.
And all of that sort of brings me back now to the original article of, this fish tank is decaying. This fish tank is decaying, and there's a lot of dead fish around. There's a lot of people that are, they're zombies. They're walking around and they're going and teaching people nonsense. They're going and teaching people that they can have men become women and women become men, or that they were always a woman trapped in a man's body. They're teaching people that it's all right to totally to dismember an infant child within its mother's womb. And these things, and it's not because they're living people don't, propagate death. They, so that's why Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead. If you're going to die, if you're going down that path, you're already dead. I was already dead before I had Christ. It was only after I had him that I was alive, because I was always, before that, I was born in death. I was born in sin. I was always going to die. That's where I was headed to. There was no future for me. But now that I have Christ, now I'm in the water bowl outside of the tank. And so it's like, we don't need to worry about the ocean because the ocean's going to turn to blood. We don't need to worry about the forests because half the land animals are, a third of the land animals are all going to die. We need to be concerned about getting people into the bowl. We need to get them on the ark. We need to get them outside of the fish tank and get them comfortable in the fish tank very easily, because AI is incredibly tempting. I could absolutely see without a doubt why people would sell their souls to it. I mean, it just does everything for them. Just, why write an article and you can just tell it to do ChatGPT and spit out a blog for you. And part of the reason why I try to make mine very anecdotal and include weird, something like a fish tank is because ChatGPT can't. I mean, I guess if you creatively came up with it.
And you have to think, anytime they come up with a great invention, different militaries get a hold of it, especially when you're talking about Russia and China, because they have this eye on world domination at all costs. That's what a communist, they want to dominate, they want to take over. And you've got to believe that they are working in their labs overtime, trying to figure out how to get AI to work for them and against all the rest of us.
Yeah, that's why they don't care. That's why they don't care like the quality of information they get. They don't care. They just need a lot of it. It's really time consuming and very expensive to train these AIs, and they're trained by data. They look at back data and then they extrapolate future data, and just Super simple. That's, every time it asks you, are you a robot? And you have to do the little captcha and look at the picture and do it all. I mean, you're training an AI. That's all it's doing. When they go and, they give you free service and now they're building these profiles of us. And then all they're going to do is take all your information and feed it back to an AI. That's constantly what they're doing. And as you mentioned, China and Russia, that's exactly why AI technology is inevitable. It's not just like we could put the brakes on it like Elon Musk and the rest of them. No, this is Pandora's box. It is already open. It is way too late. This is, I mean, the ship has already sailed. The light switch has already been flipped off because these technologies are absolutely going to be pursued by these other governments who just don't give a damn about whether or not these things are dangerous. Because it's like, well, if the WMDs can destroy the whole world, then I want to be the one in charge of it, right? Then everyone's going to be way. So everyone's going to be making their AI, and some people are going to make old ones.
I want to be,
or they're going to be the less controlled ones, like Microsoft's being in. And Bing AI is a great example of a more free range, less controlled one. I mean, China's version of an AI is just going to be super authoritarian because that's how their culture is. Our AI is probably going to be our AI. Anyways,
right.
What were you going to say? I think I interrupted you.
I just watched a movie the other day, and it had to do with the Nazis. And they had a secret meeting in 1942 and that January of how to deal with the Jews and the final solution and how they were going to efficiently wipe the Jews, not only out of Europe, but out of the rest of the world. And this is what they were discussing. The movie is called Conspiracy, and it's all done in 2 rooms. Okay, but they have 15 of these SS guys, and the conversations that they're having blew me away. One of the things that almost made me fall out of my chair was because the Germans were very much into Darwin and doing, and what one of them said, what Darwin didn't accomplish, the Third Reich will finish. And it was just, I was like, but it's the same way here with this domination of AI. Little did they know, 70 years later, that this AI was really the SS eliminating, and it wasn't just the Jews, but the human race. So we live in very interesting times. There is going to be a lot of bloodletting, and I look back on it. And but you know what, Justin? We were it says in Scripture that we were born for a time just as this. And I try to put together and figure out this is such a horrendous development that's happening, but it was inevitable. It was inevitable that we would come to this point and want to dominate and take over, and that human beings, and they will, I thank God there's no aliens out there in space, because they would be dominated by robots. You think about it. These ships are not going to be coming out there. This life is not going to be coming to check us out. It would be their robots.
Yeah. And it sort of reminds me of the Borg. You have the, they're all connected. So,
that's exactly right. The Borg, they will assimilate.
Yeah. Yeah, and it really is going to be, Borgish, but it's not going to be as obvious as the Borg. It's going to it has to be empty. It's going to be like the Borg, except it's going to seem like the most logical thing you could ever do. They're not going to look all weird and messed up. You're probably going to look more attractive. I mean, imagine if I had super intelligent AI taking control of nanobots in my body, first thing I'd do is be like, okay, give me a full head of hair. And it could do that. It could be like, oh, okay, let us make sure that we have more collagen. I mean, it could just give me alerts of what nutrients I'm low on, and then tell me what to eat. I mean, it could help me make my diet, and then it could just be like, okay, bam, full head of hair. oh, hey, I don't like that my hair is, an orangish brown, make it black, and bam, black beard, because it can go in there and just start manufacturing melanin. I mean, it sounds like science fiction, right? It just sounds like nonsense.
No, but it's not.
AI being able to just tell it to make me a program and have it spit out an entire application for me. I mean, that sounded like a dream too. I mean, being able to access the internet, and all the things that come with it, talk to someone across the world and have it translate for you in real time. And that sounded like, total science fiction back then too. I mean, all of this stuff sounds like science fiction, and because of things exactly like AI, all of those inventions are going to be, they're just going to keep happening over and over again. There's this big thing called the singularity, right? And the idea is that it's the moment where we are making world-changing discoveries, like every single day, or some people say it's even every single minute. The idea with AI is, I mentioned earlier, it's the invention that invents other things. So, and none of the AI models right now, I think, are able to do that. But eventually, we're going to create an AI that can go and, if you have it peel through and study every single scientific journal that ever existed, maybe it would catch something that a human didn't. Maybe it'd be able to do a meta-analysis that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do. And as these things go and start inventing more things, then we're going to have those inventions, and then it's going to be able to build off more and more. I mean, we have advanced so much just on our own in the last 100 years, ever since we discovered how to manipulate electrons in a way that, onto a silicon board. But now that we can outsource our own invention and our own, we can just outsource that to a robot. How much faster did writing become when we were able to put it onto a computer? I mean, how much faster will our thinking and our discoveries be when we outsource it to a computer?
Our days will be truly numbered, and they won't be even numbered by days, but by hours.
Yeah.
When AI becomes self-aware.
So, and I just want to close with this last final statement, because I know we're very short on time. The AI issue is going to destroy. I mean, this, among other things, I mean, it's going to take over everything, because the AI is ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a tool, right? And Revelation warns us that this image that's going to be the enforcer, because it's a living image. It says that it gives life to the image. This living enforcer of the beast is going to be used to just totally take over the entire world and force godlessness upon everything. And to get back to, bring full circle to our article, that's why God has turned the light switch off on purpose. That's why he's purposely destroying things, is because if he doesn't, we're just going to build another Tower of Babel. This is our next Tower of Babel. And God's going to have to come, just like he did before, intervene and totally throw away all of our plans, because that's exactly what we would do. We would make another, of course, we were always destined to make another Tower of Babel, because we went around and populated the whole world, and then we covered the whole world again, and then we made our cities again, just like they did back then, and our cities got bigger, and our cities got even bigger. They all connected together, and then we made it, digital cities, like with the whole Meta thing in Facebook. And now we're here, and now we're making super AIs that can think for us. And eventually those robots will be able to clean our houses. We already got our Roombas, but now if you hook that Roomba up to a super intelligent AI, maybe it'll actually vacuum everything instead of missing spots and getting stuck. It's very terrifying how powerful this stuff is, and how we are in the cusp of a complete, whether we like it or not, a complete new world order. We already have a new world order from the last 100 years with the way that information technology has changed things, and it's about to happen again.
And there's not a whole lot. I think if they wanted to put their foot down to stop all of this, it would have had to happen 10 years ago.
And that's exactly why that's exactly why we need to be on the bowl outside, because the Lord Jesus Christ died, so we would have that choice to be free of the of the beast of being put in that situation, and that's why I'm pre-trib. That's God's pouring His wrath out, and I was spared God's wrath, and every Christian was spared God's wrath when Jesus was on the cross for our sins. And God's wrath is poured out on Jesus for us. So I'm due 0% of God's wrath. That means I'm not gonna be here.
Right. And the more you talk about that, the more it makes sense because of where we're headed and what we got in front of us. It's in short order that this was happening. It changes rapidly. These robots will make more robots that will be far ahead of us. And then all of a sudden, everything will change completely. And these robots will become self-aware. But what's the self-aware? Is this the robots have this brain, or does the enemy, the Satan and his cohorts, are they able to connect and get into the brains of these robots and then do their destruction that way? Very sneaky. So I thank God we have a God that has none of this is a surprise to him. I'm amazed that we live in this time that is happening. When I became a Christian so many years ago, I would read Revelations and I would think, oh, that's out there. That's out there. We're all on the way from that. But now, as we talk about this, we realize it's here. It's now. It's happening right before us. You know, I'm 71, and I used to think I'll probably die before all this occurs. And I'm thinking now that I probably won't be dead, you know, when this happens. So, Justin, I'm going to finish us up here. Thank you for bringing us in here. Let's think about what we want to talk about the next time. If you've got any ideas, I'd like to do maybe some of the parables and talk about them in deep ways. I know we really did the AI thing. But there are things that God will want us to deal with on a human level, from individual to individual. So that's where I'd like us to go. I want to thank everybody who is here with us. Our next episode, the Jaws Christ Talk special, will be aired on June 2nd, when Justin will be back with us. Be sure to subscribe to our channel or page where you found this, and check out our website to find out more about this and other shows. You can see Justin's apologetic website. If you could do a screenshot of that and then punch it in, and you can read some more interesting articles that we have done on Christian apologetics on this subject and others. Anyways, thank you, Justin, for being here. And until next time, have a productive and enjoyable week.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Justin.